Good morning. My name is Robert Stanley, and this is my fifth and final week for FTH 202. This week we're going to be going over a couple things. First thing we're going to be going over is some health of the firearm that you should inspect. Before using the gun. So some areas that you should check to make sure that it's not rusting, it's not falling off, falling apart. I will not be taking the weapon apart, but I will explain a couple of the items that are underneath the slide plate that you should look at if it's been a while since you've been shooting it. Second part we're going to be going over are going to be 10 learning experiences that I had during this course. And then any unique features that I found within the double action platform. And we'll go from there. So I got the Taurus 38 special revolver. I have no live ammunition here in the cylinder. So some of the areas, and I'm going to try and back up a little bit, but some of the areas that you need to inspect with this is one, the cylinder itself for the health. You want to make sure that there's no cracks, breaks here within the cylinder, because if there are cracks or breaks, the weapon could very well explode right in your hand while you're trying to fire it. The cylinder stop down here, you want to check that. So you just want to sit there and try and rotate your cylinder when it's closed. You want to make sure that it does not rotate. So that's another healthy area that you want to inspect. The barrel itself here, you want to inspect that. Again, making sure that there's no cracks or breaks, because again, weapon could explode. When you take off your slide plate here, you want to look at your trigger spring, your hammer spring. You want to make sure that they're not bent or stretched too far, that there's no corrosion, no rust. Your pistol grip, you want to make sure that your pin is actually holding it in place, so that way it doesn't just pull off. And then next thing I would say that you need to inspect is your cylinder release. So that handle right there, you want to make sure that when you push it in, your cylinder pops right on out. You could still have some force behind it, but you still want to be able to know that you can release it. And then last is your little plunger for extracting rounds. I wouldn't say that it is necessary, because you could just tip it upside down, rounds fall out, call it a day. But it's still a working part on your revolver, so it's always good to inspect it. For this next part, got some learning experiences. Can't say that I'm going to have 10 of them. I am very informed, at least with firearms, maybe not the revolver itself, but each weapon still operates essentially the same way. One learning experience that I had, or experience that I'd say I really learned from, was tearing this thing apart. Other than opening the cylinder, loading rounds into the cylinder, closing it, pulling the trigger and firing it, I really had no clue as far as what the insides look like, and how it really all operated. And there's still things that I don't have any idea on what they actually do without digging into some research. Another learning experience that I had, normally I am patient when it comes to firearms, but when it came to the revolver, I found that I was very impatient. So I learned the value of patience when working with a revolver. The hammer spring, the trigger spring, if you don't use a paper clip to kind of keep them in place, it can be very difficult to get that back together. And I think the first time I took the weapon apart, it took me 15 minutes alone just to put the hammer spring back together. Another thing I learned is the high spots. Didn't really ever think about checking the weapon for high spots to try and help the trigger, make the trigger pull a little bit more smoother. And honestly, I also, like with the hammer spring and trigger spring, not gonna lie, didn't really know that they had springs for them to upgrade to make it better. I really thought it was just a little snip snip and call it a day. So I mean, that's really all the learning experiences that I've had. As far as unique features found within the revolver itself, two of them really stand out in the double action. Even the single action revolvers, they kind of mirror each other. The only difference is that the single action, you have to cock the hammer back. There's no double action. So, but one of the unique features that I found are like your plunger here for your cylinder, removing your rounds. I've always literally fired and tilted it up. Never really thought that this was a plunger. I just was like, oh, cool. It's a little guide ride for it to allow the cylinder to sit in place. The fact too that here, like with this revolver, I always thought all barrels were interchangeable, to where you can have a longer barrel. So, from the looks of it, on the Taurus 38, there is no way to do an actual barrel swap. And I really haven't dug into it, so I don't know yet. But a lot of the other revolvers, you're able to do a barrel swap. You can make them longer, you can make them shorter. Go from there. The slide plate, I didn't realize that this also was as important as it is. I knew that it kind of held everything inside together. I didn't realize that it also held the cylinder in place. That screw, I didn't realize that screw held the cylinder, and also that your hammer, your trigger, everything would rub up against that. I thought there would have been enough clearance. It would have shaved something down, or made a cavity for your hammer, your trigger, your hand, your sear, everything. I figured they would have had a cavity where it was kind of encaved in and didn't get in the way. So, but as far as that, again, this is my 5th and final week for FTH 202. I hope y'all enjoyed this. This not really an in-depth or me tearing this thing apart again. But otherwise, I hope y'all enjoyed my 4 videos that I made prior to this. And I'll see y'all next time when I move on to Strike Fire pistols. See y'all soon.